everyone. Welcome to part 2 of the law school decision method. In today's lecture, we're going to cover the 5-step in-depth guide to help you make an informed decision about going to law school. Then in the conclusion, we'll go back over some of the main points. The 5-step decision method. Now I'm just going to talk a little bit about me for a second. I didn't make my decision based on an abstract idea of what law school was or what an attorney did. Before I decided to go to law school, I spent around 8 months conducting research on why I wanted to go to law school. You don't need to spend that long because I'm going to give you the exact steps you need to follow. So here are the things I did to make my decision. First, you need to understand that there are 2 different types of attorney. First, there are litigators. These are the attorneys who go to court and argue in front of a judge or a jury. Their job often involves a lot of writing and researching and forming arguments to persuade the judge or jury to decide in his or her client's favor. You may have seen this in episodes of Law & Order. However, a litigator's life is usually not quite the same as in the shows. The thing to understand is that because of how the court system is set up, most lawsuits are settled before going to trial. This means that quite a few attorneys who are litigators with large law firms often don't go to court. A lot of lawsuit work involves due diligence, researching, writing, interviewing witnesses, and the like. As such, life as a litigator isn't quite like Harvey Specter in Suits, for the most part. In these types of jobs, there is often more conflict, because by this point, the opposing sides do not like one another and have had a disagreement, so having a tough skin is often a prized trait in a litigator. Litigators tend to form into smaller boutique offices or firms. Large law firms usually have their own litigation departments. However, many litigators find that they are able to get more experience early on by going to a boutique law firm. These are law firms usually with fewer than 50 attorneys. This is because they are able to get more hands-on experience early on and try cases. Litigators also can work for the government, such as the Department of Justice, as a prosecutor. The reason that working at a boutique law firm is beneficial is because an attorney's most valuable currency is their experience. And in large law firms, sometimes new litigating associates get lost in the law firm cogs and don't gain the experience they need in order to progress in their careers. The second type of attorney is a transactional attorney. These attorneys tend to be the deal makers. They work together with opposing side towards some kind of common goal, and there is often less adversarial proceedings than the litigators handle. A common goal might be one business acquiring the other and structuring the deal, or creating a purchase agreement for goods and services between 2 businesses, or helping a business find funding for a purchase through going public or applying to banks for loans. These attorneys very rarely go into court. When a deal does go bad, such as a breach of contract, which is one side allegedly not living up to their end of the bargain, one side will sue the other, and this is when the litigators get involved. Transactional attorneys, depending on the type of transactional attorney that you are, mostly work in large law firms that cater to large businesses. The second step is talking to as many attorneys, law students, and law professors as possible. Start by seeing whether any family members are attorneys, or whether you or any family members know attorneys, law professors, or law students that you can talk to. If not, talk to friends who have gone to law school who are in law school and see whether they can introduce you to attorneys that they may know. If you go to a university that has a law school attached to it, email some of the law professors and see whether they would be willing to talk to you. Ask for an introduction to these attorneys. Get their names and their information, and look up their website and LinkedIn to find out what kind of attorney they are. Email the attorney after an introduction has been made for you by the person who knows them. Say something like, "Dear Mr. X, my name is Joe Smith. My father gave me your information and said I could contact you. I am interested in attending law school, but I would like to find out more what a practicing attorney does during the day. I know that you are a real estate attorney, and I'd love to learn more about this field of law. Would you have any time in the near future to meet for coffee, or that I could stop by your office to talk? Best regards, Joe Smith." Do this with several attorneys and try to find different attorneys who do different things. There will be criminal attorneys, wills and estates attorneys, real estate attorneys, corporate attorneys, etc. Try to talk to as many different people as possible. Here are some questions to ask. What is your day like? How is interacting with clients? What advice would you have for someone who is interested in going to law school? If you don't know any attorneys, talk to friends who have gone to law school and see whether they would introduce you to attorneys they may know. Alternatively, you can search through a law firm's website and filter the search by college and see whether there are any alumni who are now lawyers who would be willing to talk to you about their decision to go to law school and what being a lawyer is like. The third thing to do is to go down to your local state or federal courthouse. Your local courthouse is open to you to visit, and you can sit in on almost any trial. There are 2 reasons to go to your local courthouse. You'll get to see how judges act. Judges are some of the most interesting people in the legal profession. They've often been practicing attorneys themselves for a long time and are incredibly smart and experienced. This will expose you to some great lawyering. You'll also get to see how a wide variety of different attorneys act in court. You'll see some bad lawyering and you'll see some great lawyering. Watching how attorneys speak in court, examine witnesses, pick a jury, and act in general will give you some idea of what attorneys do. When you go to a federal courthouse, you will have to present your driver's license, so make sure to bring that with you. And obviously, don't bring any weapons with you like a knife or anything like that. You'll have to put all the objects on you, including your belt and shoes, on a tray which will go through an X-ray machine. Once you're through the checkpoint, you can go into almost any courtroom and watch proceedings. Make sure to be courteous and quiet. Do not laugh if something is funny or if something interesting happens, and also keep your phone on silent. The fourth thing you can do is getting an idea of some of the things that law students study. The first-year curriculum at many law schools is the same throughout the whole country. Every law student will take contracts, torts, civil procedure, property, constitutional law, criminal law, and perhaps a statutory interpretation course. You will also take a legal writing course both semesters. What I did was, I read a few books on legal reasoning, none of which I remembered by the time I got to law school, but the one book that I do recommend reading is a book called Getting to Maybe. This book has gold nuggets of information throughout, but the material is too abstract to understand prior to law school, but it will give you an insight into how attorneys think about issues they need to solve during work. The best thing I did, though, was I bought 2 books which are called Examples and Explanations, which we will now refer to as E&Es. These are law school study aids, and are books which explain the first year's subject matter to all law students so that they're able to learn it in an easy and accessible way. The casebook students read in their first year are mostly made up of old law cases with facts and how the judge decided those facts. Now these E&Es take the mystery out of the various rules of law and give you a broad overview of the entire course, showing you how things fit together, and they also build upon the most basic principles and move forward into the more dense material. I bought the E&E for torts and civil procedure and read through them cover to cover. I didn't try to understand everything, but I grasped quite a few concepts, and I also gained an insight into the types of things law students learn and the type of reasoning that you have to use in law school. This is how I knew that I would like the material that was going to be covered in the first year. You can also pick these up for very cheap on Amazon, or if you live near a law school, you can go into the library and see if you can borrow them from them. I also found that by reading these E&Es, I was able to understand certain concepts that were covered in the first year more easily because I'd already been exposed to some of them beforehand. Lastly, you should know about employment statistics. Look up the employment statistics of some of the schools you want to go to, and also survey the legal employment market at the moment. If you're wanting to work in a large law firm, big law jobs are often the hardest to get, as they are the most sought after, and so knowing these types of statistics, while scary, will give you an idea of whether you want to take the risk of going to law school. If you follow these steps, you will be able to make an informed decision about going to law school. So, in conclusion, don't be one of the unfortunate 1Ls who finds out too late they don't want to be an attorney. If you follow these steps, you'll be able to make the best decision for you, and you'll be heads and shoulders above most of the law students in the country in making this decision. Next, by exposing yourself to some of the law school material before going to law school, you'll actually have a small head start as some of the concepts will be familiar to you. Lastly, in the end, you're going to be the one who has to decide whether to go to law school and not anyone else, and so you should make this decision based on information that you've researched.